Okay, so we'll do the prayer to Manjushri. Lamandang gumbo jambo yang lan chan sa lo kongi lon jin jin yen jin dal ni tar nam da ra sa jin yen den guen ji shin si chi ni ji tu gar lek bam kondo si bi chen dar ma ri min tum dung al ji sir wen ro zo kun la pu chi ta yen lan tru chu yon den zon ru daran che dro nyu mo nyi lo le ji cha dro ro ze je ma re men ze dong ai nyu jin yen jen ze ra de nam de ne da jin sa ju ta ze yen den le zon ja ze tu wen gu chu dan chu dan chu nyen jen Dale menzen jambe yang la du umara bazana de 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 umara bazana Umara bazana de 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 umara bazana Umara bazana de 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 zenden cici çera bezre dale de mom barazane kadan denci şunlun dobay lojem bobe nan zandu zon de zon zon je don je jingo de dan jingo jan se jada kadin sonda majiba Palo jinji jinja beja jindo jima me balangura donde de gozongo bajim bengone chanza jinja zojo jiwanen zara donje du tu jinji zunzum branze duzo gange jazan doye mengom gezar zimben dondash sembe ziven zendum barben dukun me gendu zejur tuje dama kune shirin jiden sum jikon jabe tuam be mogar beja bederin dalwe yanzur jon jinzolem be mendom bodzeren javen nanduran jelen jedu zenzo beje den jombarbe Pemanjone dale yenzurajon. Gombolo Jaya Devanda Tome Nyencholan Jujinda Jujun Janan Yembawazo Zanlin Jenjo Nam Jinda Ejon. Kari Dogarin Jinyim Begulo Yendenga Junga Vishasardo Nimbi Denze Bebe Nanjuruba. Longchen Ranjam Shab Jinda Ejon. Ridon Jamba Junu Jinlale Gombilon Lepo Beta Jendo Londo Jenzen Jamze Ngwanjur. Mibam Jambi Anjinda Ejon. Kange dala riba loba dan doji tenche menga nala zo laba zada ongrishin labe Muju tenche la menda eshon yende sanje kanda nyamna ya kadin sanje kune labi gwen tsawe la mesha la so ande la so ndruwe lam na che la anjur konda jujur donge jidena ande she lo marjur bakan so da tendir dambe chu jenchar bebe Sembarande banda dandir je namo arya thamba lai ke dan lu danu jinge ndugunda dame ke nam dan duwa kunji danam je zambar kamje ke do sosur te jurje majunduwa nam ka danyam besim jen thamje namdul denji dewala name bayam babar zo bisanje ji bhavaram barchela Chine jangwe barasha, dehi chedu, teba chimbe shunglo, jazi chimbo shiwa la teni jinzebe, chanju zembi cheba lan juba teni tsushindu sene. Nyamsu langwara jiwo nyamdu, samba chanju chodu tuji badan chede sen tsal. Mm, so the generating a vacant mind in this way, for the sake of all the motherly sentient beings equal to it is space, to free them from the cyclic existence and its cause, and then to lead them to complete enlightenment. For that purpose, I'm going to listening or studying these Mahayana scriptures composed by Shantideva, the way of Bodhisattva's life, and I will going to implement it with that kind of motivation, intention, study or listen this teaching. And beside that, also prepared, listen carefully in an excellent way and try to implant implant the meaning as well as the word which describing the meaning. And then the actual teaching, the way of Bodhisattva's life, which has 10 chapters with the 4 themes. So far we already studied 7 chapters. At the moment we are studying the 8th chapter, which is the meditative concentration. How to develop the meditative concentration. And among the 4 themes, the first 2 we complete. Third theme, that how to develop or improve the further the bodhicitta, Mahayana spiritual training. So for that, it requires diligent meditative concentrations and wisdom. And among that we are studying the second one, the meditative concentrations, how one should develop within oneself. And in order to develop this meditative concentrations, and we should understand what are the exact contrary or what are the exact the opposite which prevent us to develop this meditative concentrations, which is in short the mundane concern. And the mundane concern could be understood as the engaging our physical into crowdness and mental into distractions. So that is what is known as a mundane concern. And then to further a little bit understand detail, then it is here according to this Shantideva, the way of Bodhisattva's life scriptures, introducing the mainly 3 objects which distract us or which obscure us to develop the meditative concentrations, which is the craving towards surrounding peoples, including family members and so on, and then craving towards the wealth, reputations, and fame and so on, and then the craving towards one's partner, the gender craving. So these are the 3 types. Three craving is the exact contrary or the exact obscurations for oneself, for individual to develop the meditative concentrations. Without avoiding these 3, and the genuine true achievement of meditative concentrations will be some sort of like impossible. So to develop the meditative concentrations, and these are the contraries. It is elaborately Shantideva introduce what does exactly means, and these are the things that we should kind of like a concern or things to avoid. And after avoiding these things, then we need to abide with the solitude. And then after avoid and the abiding in a solitude, then and then cultivate the mind of bodhicitta, the mind of bodhicitta. So here, generally, as I told you earlier, to develop the meditative concentrations, there are various methods that one could develop it. But according to this Shantideva textbook, the Bodhisattva's way of life, that the choosing the object to develop one's meditative concentration is the bodhicitta. So through the kind of like a training the sense of equalness, oneself and others, and the training into the exchanging self and others. So through these are the object that Shantideva recommending those who willing to develop the bodhicitta, who uh, willing to improve the Mahayana training. So he is recommending these objects you should choose to develop your meditative concentrations. And then, so how to train to improve or develop the sense of equalness, of sameness, or the oneness of self and others, that which already we studied. And then after one's complete training, the developing the sense of oneness means the self and others, so equalness. Then we should, next step, we should meditate or train within one's mind stream to have that sense, develop the sense of able to exchange oneself with the others. So how to do that? Yesterday that we already studied a little bit. So this from stanza 110 to 111. So 111 to 113, the briefly Shantideva introduced that how and why we should train this exchanging self and others. And then now from this stanza 114 onwards, and Shantideva elaborating the rational, providing all the rational reasons and so on, the beneficial and potential, and the why we should kind of like a discard the self-clinging and so on. These are elaborating from here, that from stanza 114 to 120. So these almost 7 stanza actually telling us how to accept the others as self. So how to accept the others as self, that with the reason that Shantideva taught us. And then today we are beginning from here, the stanza 121. So from this stanza 121 to 124, so those 4 stanza, it's talking about the discard the self-clinging. So the how to discard the self-clinging, then Shantideva explaining and why we need to discard the self-clinging, or the why we need to avoid or abandon the self-clinging. So today, from this stanza 121 to 124, the mainly Shantideva talks about that how to abandon or discard the self-clinging. So self-clinging we can discuss or the abandon by implementing this method, which is Dalu Kangla Chakbai, Jigne Chungla Jikewa, Jikba Kewi Lutela, Sushi Dashin Dami Jays. So, which they translated that because of our attachment to our bodies, even little thing alarmed us. This body, then this source of so much terror, who would not detest it as the worst of foes. Are we willing to do that? So now here, the reason that he wants us to think this as a reason why we should kind of like the detest it as the worst of foes. That because of our attachment to our bodies, even little things alarmed us. Even little thing alarmed us, which means some sort of like a that and the little what do you call it? Unpleasant, we could say unpleasant, or some sort of like a the discomfort, unpleasant or discomfort, such as like a headache and stomach ache, and I don't know what to say, the mosquito biting. So even these little things alarmed us, right? That's what he's saying, that and so on. There are so many little things that which makes us very discomfort, very unpleasant. And these kind of all little discomforts, and sometimes it makes very, how to say, uh, what do you call it, that we really wants to not to occur to oneself any of these things we wish to, means that these little things creating something discomfort within oneself, unpleasant oneself. If so, this is now Shantideva saying, if you feel even these little things causing us discomfort, and if so, that how all these little things causing discomfort to oneself, it is all because to this really body is the root of all this problem. So this body which we gain at the moment, and then plus we have this strong attachment towards it. So anyway, so what Shantideva really saying is this, that where we are clinging the self-clinging, the object of self-clinging is really this body. This body is the exact object that we think it is I, it is self. So because of that attachment, because of this attachment, kind of like causing even all this little discomfort, unpleasant, that above mentioned. So if you really scrutinize all the behind reason that why all these even little things causing us discomfort, it is all because that we cling towards this body as an I. Now this is something really kind of like a I think cannot just, okay, let me tell you this one thing. This is something very important message, but it won't be able to experience immediately. No, it does not work that way. Immediately, it does not work that way. What does I mean immediately? Means that, okay, let's say I decided to not to cling towards myself from today. And even I decide not to cling myself, still all this headache, stomach ache, and mosquito biting and causing me discomfort. You see, we think that. Actually, in a historical, and then also many, like those the great, the realized selflessness of kind of like a selflessness, yeah, the realizing the selfless, not really clinging towards self, and even that the great discomfort, they are able to take it. That kind of things is there. So this is something talking about very big meaning here. But this kind of things that, oh, so logically, or the what do you call it, intellectually, it makes sense. So I discard all my self-clinging. So right after that, I should not have any of those discomfort feeling. That does not work. So this is actually has to work with the long period. Then it might work. For instance, even the even the accepting uncertainty training. Yes, the uncertainty is the real, is the truth of all compounded phenomena. Any kind of compounded phenomena, its nature is uncertain, including myself is uncertain, right? And then when we train to accept that uncertain, when it depends on an individual's kind of like a individual's development of accepting uncertainty, it depends on an individual's development. According to that, some conditions, some changing doesn't matter for them, but some changing may be matter for them. But the people who really accomplish training accepting uncertainty completely, then none of the uncertainty, none of the change doesn't bother that person. You see, and that needs training. It's not something just intellectually understand and it is just stop from there. It's need experience on it. So once we developed that complete the letting it go or discard the self-clinging, then definitely there will not going to be any discomfort and unpleasant. And that stage we will achieve when we are able to discard or abandon the self-clinging completely. And then the next and then the little bit kind of like a what do you call it, the person who are in a training, on the training, so training of the abandon the self-clinging, and those can deal with the many circumstances, many situations. Sometimes maybe fail, but most of the times they will be able to deal with those situations because they have that sudden level of achievement of abandoning the self-clinging. And then just intellectually, oh, this is something maybe good with that kind of source, that kind of the mind, and then kind of like a just intellectually discard or the abandon self-clingings, but and the practically or experience level doesn't have any confidence and conviction on it, so it might not work. So these things that we need to understand. But somehow, anyhow, so what's the point that Shantideva pointing out from this one stanza is that even these little things which causing us the unpleasant and discomfort, if so, all these little the things that which causing us the discomfort and unpleasant, it is all because of this rooted of all these little things, little problem is in this body. So the wise one, or the some sort of like a intelligent one, so here sings sushik dashin damije, is that this body, then this source of so much terror, who will not, right? Who will not? This who is referred to those who are sensible and intelligent, wise. Okay, so I should add here the wise, those who are wise. Why would not detest it as the words of force? Because of having this body and brings all this discomfort. Now, this is one way, rather than blaming on somebody else, this let us think that every problems what we are facing, main one reason is because of self, because of our own this body. If this body is not there, and headache is not exist, stomach ache is not exist, so the headache happens because I have this body, stomach ache happens because I have this body, and mosquitoes are biting because I have this body. If I do not have this body, to whom mosquito will bite? And what stomach will going to ache? And which head will going to ache? You see, now this kind of thing that we never think this. Whenever we face some problem, immediately look outward and then finding who caused it, who did it. We never turn our intelligence to look inwardly. So now these guidance tell us to look inwardly, not only outwardly. So that all the whatever the problems that we may facing, there is a reason, all of this behind. The reason could be myself, my body. My body is the really source of bringing all this discomfort. So therefore Shantideva was saying that who will not detest it as the worst of four? Is it possible now? You see now here again. So that is now, it is really possible how to say, as I mentioned earlier, the persons who train to accept the uncertainty, and then later any kind of uncertainty when they faced, they just able to deal with it rather than getting so nervous and getting agitated, and they just kind of like they just calm down and then look into its situations and then find it out the reasons, and then is there any solution or not? If not, forget it. If yes, just apply it and fix it. Like that way we can deal with it. This is all because the person, individual, have a training in accepting uncertainty. If the person does not have training in uncertainty, the fact is just like that. What the person who have already in training in accepting uncertainty, that is what everybody should do it. That is the fact. But the untrained person, won't be able to see as this trained person's perceiving. And then therefore, because of the lacking of this intelligence to see exact as it is, then rather than controlling that situation, or rather than able to solve this such situation, it steers or creates extra burden or the extra difficulties. So likewise, here that the persons who trained to discard the self-clinging towards this body, when through our training, when we really able to abandon or discard the self-clinging within towards this body and holding this as an I very solidly, when we're able to discard that, abandon this kind of like a solidly clinging, then there is this little does not cause any discomfort, that we can really deal with it. This I can tell by, I saw the persons who are great practitioner by my own eye, that how they deal with this little problems. They're just very easily they are dealing with this little headache and stomach ache, or some sort of like this little discomfort creating surrounding people's. They kind of like their way of dealing is like, sometimes it feels like they are doing nothing, but doing nothing is actually they are doing to solve the problem. You see, in order to solve the problem, we should do something. Yes, we should do something. Not necessarily the doing is only through the activity. Sometimes the inactivity is the way of dealing with the situations. That kind of things I just really saw by myself, because this is all because they have this kind of like a capability to discard the self-clinging. That's why they are able to handle many situations. So that Shantideva here saying, who would not detest it as the worst of foes, means that absolutely the wise will not blame everything towards outwardly. Then wise one also understand all this problem because of this clinging, self-clinging. So therefore, the wise one will going to deal with this self-clinging, to discard or abandon the self-clinging. So now, and then the next one, that how this self-clinging towards this my body, it's creating all this unpleasant and discomfort, and then many other serious damage, difficult towards oneself. How does it cause? Shantideva above mentioning, right? Above mentioning, because of this is the root. This body is the base of all this problem. This body is the one that which we assume as an I. Therefore, all these many various problems occurring. That's what Shantideva mentioning about. Even this little discomfort was caused by this body, towards clinging towards this body. And how does this clinging towards this body causing all these various, even little discomfort and many difficulties? And then here he is answering. Lukante dan komsone sowi choga chedebe chadanya dan ridada sobra chejing lamgupche kanshi kedan remdujir pada maya so chejing kuncho sumji korkune tesni narmese gyurnas. So this two stanza, it's talking about how clinging towards this body causing various difficulties. And then he is saying, wishing to relieve our body's ill, right? Our hungry mouths, the dryness of our throats. We still the life of fishes, birds, and deer, and lie in waiting along the road. So this is all because that wishing to relieve our body's ill, wishing to relieve this our body's ill, and then to survive this body really healthy for this purpose. This is all because of the self-clinging. That self-clinging make us to wish to relieve our body's ills and hungry mouths, the dryness of our throat, and to healthy survive for that purpose, and to really to remove all these difficulties. The method which we using is we still the life of fishes. So I'm hungry, so I kill this fish and chickens, birds, and deer. So maybe, I don't know, the deer, we eat most sometimes beef, pork, and these things. Chadan yedan ridada, super teachings. That we steal the life of fishes, birds, and deer. And also for this purpose, to remove this body's ill, hungry mouth, and dryness of our throats, and so on, to survive this body healthy. For this purpose, we also and lie in wait along the road. What does it mean? Lie in wait along the road.
It means it's a poetic way of saying that you cheat and steal from others and you trap others.
Yeah, the robbing. Yeah, so just waiting opportunity to rob others, to steal others' things. These are kind of like a killing actions. The first one is Shantideva saying, because of that we clinging towards this body as a self. So therefore, in order to remove all this hungry and thirsty and ill and those all, even for the tiny difficult, and then to survive healthier, for this purpose, we engage into killing actions. We engage into robbing and lying, cheating actions. And then some even does this, which is, and for the sake of profit and position. See now. So profit and positions for whom? Myself, I. Where is I? This body. You see, it is all coming back. Reason is this body. If this body is not exist, this all problem is not there. And even some people, they do this one. And for the sake of profit and position, some there are who even kill their parents, or steal what has been offered to the triple gem, because of which they will burn in a hell of unrelenting pain. So this kind of, I think all this above whatever mentioned, even the mundane point of view, regardless whether people are doing or not, but I don't think even from the mundane point of view, they will appreciate it, any of these actions. Are we really appreciating butcher? Are we appreciating butcher?
Oh, butcher.
Are we appreciating people who rob on the road?
Well, indirectly sometimes we profit from it.
Doesn't matter, but we don't appreciate. We don't appreciate. So, okay, this is question mark now. Maybe some people, some of you may thinking that we may appreciating. Maybe some of you may thinking that unconsciously may we appreciating. That's not appreciating then. We don't have to make this excuse. Appreciation or not, it's very easy to see it. There's no unconscious or cautious. Whether you admiring that or not, right? Are any of even from the mundane point of view, in a movie I can see that sometimes when they kill animal, right? When they kill animal, they doesn't really wanna show how they kill. Just like animals going near to the knife, and then knife pulled up, and then after a little bit blood. Because this is also proving, even from the mundane point of view, we don't admire that. We don't appreciate that. If we admire this, if we appreciate this, why have to hide it?
Which will become rich too.
And likewise, and then further is stealing. Oh, even from the mundane point of view, no one admiring. Robbing and stealing and cheating, lying, right? And then we have sometimes excuse saying white lie. White lie is not lying, actually. This is me. We talk like a white lying. White lying is not lying. There is some reason to do that. So that's not kind of like a lying. Anyway, we may find it some of these excuse, white lie, and so on. Anyway, generally, even from the mundane point of view, we don't appreciate people who cheat. We don't appreciate people who rob. who steals, who rob the bank, or family members, or whatsoever, individuals. And then even regardless, whatever you have a reason for your profit and possessions, some there are who even kill their parents, right? So the killing parents doesn't even admiring, appreciable from the mundane point of view either. Same. And then, or still, what has been offered to Triple J, because of which they will burn in the hell of unrelenting pain. This is something, you see, I always saying, when we talk about the hell, unrelenting pain, oh, we think it is disgusting to hear it. And some people may say these are all just brainwashing. These are just kind of like deceiving us. Some of us may thinking that. This burn in hell and unrelenting pain will experience. As I always saying, if you do not want to believe this, yes, there is a way. If I do not want to believe in this, I should not believe myself also to profit and possession that I should kill my parents. I should not believe in this. Or still what has been offered to the Triple J. So here, Triple J. Related with this, I will tell you one history. And here it's pointed out Triple J. It can also include so many things. I will tell you first this history, how much kind of like a the persons who wish to steal the what has been offered to the Triple J, who will going to do that? Those who has this self-clinging will do that. So that self-clinging comes from where? This really body. This really body made them to cling themselves. And then this self-clinging will forcing you to engage into all of this above mentioned activity. That is something regardless, okay? This is something just fact, truth. Sometimes people doesn't really want to hear the truth because this truth is so hurting. It is contradicting with what we wish. Therefore, I think like one reason Buddhism is so rare because of it talks about truth, which hurts. We want to live with the fabrication world, not with the fact world. Therefore, I believe that's the one reason why Buddhism is rare, and especially Buddhist practitioner is even more rare. Generally, Buddhism itself is rare, And particularly Buddhist practitioner is even more rare. If you really want to practice Buddhist, then you have to understand the fact. And then many of those fact is hurting. Sometimes for the temporarily hurting. It's hurting for temporarily, for sure, yes. Not for long term. That's for sure. So let me tell you, related with this word, one history, that still what has been offered to Triple J, because of which because of which means all this above activity, we involving into all above activity, mentioned killing parents and kind of like steal the lives of fish, birds and deers and lie in a wait along to the road, and all this, it is all because wishing to relieve our body ill or hungry mouth or dryness of our throats. And this, in short, discomfort, to remove the discomfort within this body. That's why we wanna we're driven into these activities. Yeah, you may ask this question at the end. The person who raised the hand, you may ask this question at the end of the teaching. Okay, so note it down.
Yes.
Question, note it down. So now his story related with this last one is still what has been offered to Triple J. So now there's one history that during the Shakyamuni Buddha's time, when he was reciting in the Vajrapit mountain. Yeah, eagle, vulture peat. Oh, yeah, not Vajra, vulture peat mountain. And not really far from that vulture peat mountain, around that area, there was one pond, one very dirty pond that all people's throwing every dirty water and poo, pee, everything. This within this small pond, the pool, right? And inside that pool, there's one kind of like looks like one being, like a snake, not really snake, but looks like a snake, which has 4 arms and always reciting inside that pool, the dirty pond, that where everybody throws garbages and so on, pees and poos and so on. And that animal, okay, call animal, right? Animal looks like a snake, which has 4 arms. He is dwelling there in that pond. And then, okay, so now again here, this is what Shakyamuni Buddha saying, that he was struggling in that dirty pond. But now we may think, maybe not. This is how they survive. Just like human, how surviving on the planet. We may think that. But here what it is saying, yes, that he was struggling in that pond many years. And then during the one occasion, Shakyamuni Buddha himself, he took many kind of like his follower, disciples together, the bhikshu together. And then when on the way that this pond they need to cross, and then when they are crossing that pond, everybody saw, including Shakyamuni Buddha himself, in that pond there's this animal, that creature, right? The creature animal is moving. When they saw this creature, and Shakyamuni Buddha just asked all his disciples, do you know the reason that why this creature is born into this dirty pond? And then none of those disciples does not have any idea that what is the cause and why this creature is born into this dirty pond. And then they asked Shakyamuni Buddha, no, we don't know. Could you please tell us? And then Shakyamuni Buddha said, well, then listen carefully and then implement it, remember it. I will tell you this. And then Shakyamuni Buddha start talking about the reason, what is the cause, what is the reason behind that this creature was born into this dirty pond. And Shakyamuni Buddha said, during the Buddha Nambarzik, just like a Shakyamuni Buddha, but it was like almost like 1,000,000 years before, so many years. This Buddha, just like Shakyamuni, but his name is Nambarzik. We call this one Shakyamuni, right? That one Buddha Nambarzik. And then after he entered into parinirvana, and there were 10,000 his follower, the Buddha Namzik's follower, 10,000 bhikshus, and they are preserving this ordination very carefully, very purely. And then all of those 10,000 bhikshu reciting in one remote area in a mountain where people are not really going around. And then but that area itself is so nice. There are many beautiful rivers and trees and ponds and fruits are growing. So those all 10,000 bhikshus are preserving their moral purely and practicing very seriously. So therefore, almost all of them are not really ordinary beings. They are some sense of the kind of like it's called like a four fruitions. Most of them, almost all of them, are achieved any of those four fruitions, not really ordinaries. And then there's another one, when they are just doing that in that remote area on the mountain. And one occasion, they were visited 500 merchants on the way to the ocean to get the jewels. And on the way, this 500 merchants saw this mountain where dwelling this 10,000 very serious practitioners, bhikshus. Because of that, they felt so admired by watching them, what they're doing. And then they decided to offer something to these 10,000 bhikshus. But at that time, when they willing to offer something, and they are already booked, so they didn't get opportunity to offer anything. It is like kind of like some sort of like sponsors are lining up. Today it is my turn, tomorrow my turn, like that. And they didn't, this 500 merchant is abruptly came, right? So they didn't got the opportunity to offer anything. And then they made this promise in front of this few bhikshus that when we get back from the ocean, if we get back well, properly back, then definitely on the way we will offer something towards all of you. And then they went. And then all of them merchant come back well with the lots of jewel. And then on the way back, this 500 merchant offered one very kind of like a valuable jewels to those 10,000 bhikshus. And they said, this is for all of you when the kind of like a food crisis, when food crisis happens to you, then this is, you can just use that, this is to sell and then get the food. For this purpose, we would like to offer this to all of you. And then this few of those kind of like who's organizing those bhikshus, they took it. And then there's a one leader that who are like a treasurer, right? Treasurer. They give it to him and ask them to keep it, this valuable jewels. And then that's how time is passed for a while. And then one day, yes, food crisis has happened. Food crisis has happened, and then they are lacking the food. And then at that moment, these kind of like people who are working, who are organizer, and they decided now this is the time to sell this valuable jewel to get the food to survive this 10,000 monks. And then they called this treasurer and then asked him to bring it that jewels. Now it's time for sale. And then this treasurer says, those 500 merchants offered this to me, not to us. And then they said, no, you are misunderstanding. At that time, they offered this for all of us. And then now, at that moment, we ask you to keep it. It is just for you to keep it, not to own it. And then he gets so mad and he said this very harsh word, kind of like eat shit. Eat shit, all of you. No, this is not. This is just given to me. And he possesses by himself. And then rest of those organizer bhikshus, there's nothing to do. Then they just left. Let him possess, let him own. And then that's how time is passed. And then after he passed away, and he was experiencing unrelenting pain in this, it's called like a Narme, the worst hell ram. He suffered there eons and eons. Like it is mentioned, Shakyamuni Buddha mentioning 91 eons that he was suffer there. And then after liberating from the hell, and he was born into this dirty pond, that he was surviving by eating all this shit. He have to survive by eating all these dirty things. And even now he is not freed from these consequences because of that one action. And since when he was struggling like this, and then Shakyamuni Buddha mentioning, in the past, after this Buddha Namzik, there's a Buddha called Tsuktur. So, have you heard about 7 Buddhas? We have saying this 7 excellent Buddhas. It's already happened in the past. So this Buddha Namzik is the first Buddha. And even to happen this each Buddha, in between there are many thousands of years gap each other. Buddhas, these Buddhas, 1002 Buddhas are not coming one after another immediately. No, it has a long gap. Just like here now, Shakyamuni Buddha passed away. So how many years have been? Buddha Maitreya still didn't came yet. Just like that, each of these 1002 Buddhas will going to have this much long gap. And even some Buddhas have a longer gap. So this Buddha Namsik is the actually not counting among the 1002 Buddhas. It was actually before that. There were 3 Buddhas, Namsik, Tsuktur, and Thamjikyo. These 3 Buddhas are not counting in 1002 Buddhas. There are 3 before that. And then Korwajik, the Buddha Korwajik is the considering as the first Buddha among the 1002. So this bhikshu, after this Buddha, first Buddha Namzik passed away, and then that history which I told that happened. And after that, so now Shakyamuni Buddha saying, the same spot here, this same pond, this second Buddha, which is known as a Buddha Tsuktur, he was also came just like me here, with all his bhikshu follower, just like you all. And he also introduced his story to his disciple. And likewise, the next one, the Buddha Thamjikyo, also introduced his story to his disciple. And then the first of the among 1002 Buddha, known as a Korwajik, he also did same thing. And then second Buddha, Sertup, third Buddha, Kashyap, Vusung, and fourth Buddha, me, today I'm doing to this, I'm introducing this to you. So now you see the time period, how long he is struggling just by that one great. This is what it means here. That still what has been offered to Triple Gem. You see, this is what it means. That still what has been offered to Triple Gem. Stealing. And because of which they will burn in a hell of unrelenting pain. That is the one history proving how person who is engaging into this kind of worst kind of like a inferior, negative actions could experience the consequences of it. And then Shakyamuni Buddha said, likewise, all these 1,002 Buddhas will going to come into this place and introduce their followers about why this creature was born into here. When Shakyamuni Buddha taught this reason, and all the bhikshus at that moment, they goosebump from their body. This goosebump happened. And since then, they are very caring about stealing or utilizing the Sangha's belongings. Therefore, it is the Sangha belonging things, it's not really easy. The object is heavy, the thing is heavy, and action is heavy. Now, this idea we can apply towards those, even they are not Sangha members, but is still community leader. You see, now, when something belongs to community and possessing and owning by those private leader, same consequences here. Nowadays in this world, most of the leader does this. It's very unfortunate that they will have to face these consequences later. Not as this heavy, maybe not, because the object are just ordinary people, not as those very preserving or maintaining pure moral 10,000 bhikshus belonging, not maybe that heavy, but still, it is communities. It is many people's belonging. Utilizing and owning or possessing the many people's belongings, it's very heavy. So we must be careful when we use this. And especially people like us who are surviving based on a people's offering. So we must use this offering in a very proper way. We cannot just spend like a whatever. And especially owning, oh, forget it. Try not to own these things. Try not to possess these belongings. We should really careful about. Even not bhikshus, but still, I'm saying this same idea can apply to the country's belonging and communities belonging and family members belonging even. We need to consider this. These are very similar idea. These are all heavy. It's not easy. It's not easy to digest. That's what I'm saying here now, this one. Still what has been offered to Triple Gem. Here, regards with the Triple Gem, this, which is like a very heavy object, and then related with those, whatever they are belonging, stealing, possessing, it's also heavy actions. Now, this similar idea can apply, even those are not very heavy object, but still many people's belonging. Public property. Last time this Capitol Hill, this is our house, you see. Yeah, that is true. Our house must utilize properly. Otherwise, it is heavy result. Heavy result about future, obviously. Even presently, it is heavy, right? Those writers are not letting you utilize easily. Anyway, so this is just one sense to understand how it is heavy that we should concern about. Trying to possessing or trying to steal or trying to own the things which belongs to group, things which belongs to community, things which belongs to country, things which belongs to Sangha member, and things which belongs to Triple JM, obviously, goes without saying. We should be very careful, even one penny. And people are engaging into these heavy negative actions. The persons who are engaging into it, all reason behind it is to wishing to relieve our bodies ill. That is all purpose, right? Or hungry, our hungry mouth, the dryness of our throat, to survive our this body, which I think it is self, I. For this is the reason, only this is the reason behind that why the persons who are engaging into any of those above mentioned activity, why they are engaging. After all of this behind, the reason is to protect this self, body, this body, which is we consider as a self. To protect that, and we should relieve our bodies from ills, hungries, and dryness of throats. To relieve. That's why we're engaging into it. In short, now this is what Shantideva introducing is that people are engaging into those, what do you call it? Improper negative activities, actions, because of self-clinging towards this body. If we do not self-clinging towards this body, we do not need to engage into any of those actions. What's the point? What's the purpose of engaging into these actions? So with this now, Shantideva introducing the faults of carrying the self, the faults of self-clinging. So understand all these faults can bring within oneself by carrying this self-clinging. So understand this. So if anyone does not want to engage into any of these above negative actions, then must discard the self-clinging. abandon the self-clinging. That's how Shantideva introducing the reason why we should discard the self-clinging. Kepa sushi lu de la de jing sung na che 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 de la sushi dashin du tawar me je nye me je. And now, after understanding all this, the person who really wish to benefit themselves, where are the wise and prudent them, right? Where are the wise and prudent then, who cherish God and serve the body, who will not perceive it as their foe, and as their foe regard it with contempt. Is this really we will going to do that? Yeah, now it is really, we need to think now. If we are wise, intelligent, and Shantideva was saying, understand the root of the problem to clinging towards this body as a self. The self is very much dependent in this body. So this body is creating all this above mentioned. So therefore, the wise one who really wish to protect now, who really wish to kind of like offer, or kind of like how to say, treat well. Instead, the wise one look after this body like a force, and then contempt them. Means, what does showing means? Contempt them means discarding the self-clinging. Abandoning the self-clinging is the contempting the body. That's what it means. And then now from here, the next one, it's talking about the together. It's like kind of like simultaneously talking about the faults and benefit of holding core the self and others. You understand? Now it's like talking two things together. So one hand it talks about the what do you call the force of holding self as a core, right? Core, or the main. Yeah, main, core. And then at the same time also talks about the beneficial of the holding other as a core, priority. Together, simultaneously, it talks. This is not so difficult to understand, okay? So here it talks about from this stanza 125 till 133. It talks about this faults and benefits of holding self core versus holding others core. Okay? Or we can say holding self as a priority versus holding others as a priority. Right? Understand? So it talks about this. Mainly, this is the one what Shantideva want us to understand from this stanza 125 125 to 133. Nine is stanza, right? But these are not so difficult to understand. So it's very easy. It's very. So what it is saying, galte jinna chi che ji daden semba drei zul, galte che na chi jin che shenden semba lai chus. Da chir shen la nyo she na nyala soba dungwar jur, shen chir da la nyo she na punsum soba tamje top. Dani towar deba de ngendro ngendang lembar jur, deni shen la po she na dendro rimdro tobar jur. Dagi tendu shen kol na ten la soba nyongwar jur, shen ji tendu da chen na jepen ni so nyongwar jur. Jiten dewa jinye ba dekan shende dele jung, jiten dungal jinye ba dekan rande dele jung. Maandu sheta chishiku chibe randen drupa cheba dan tube shenden shenji tenze ba teni chinin chebar duyo. Da de shenji dungal da yanda jewa maje na sanje nye medrup jing kurwa na yanda dewa me. Jiten parol par shogi tenyo lemi cheba da jepen nye meterwi tse di me. Ponda maton de drupi pun portion shenlan dungal chebi yu mom begins with this. If I give this, what will be left for me? Right? Questioning oneself like this. Thinking of oneself the way of evil ghost. It's easy to understand, right? If I keep this instead, if I keep this, what will be left to give? Thinking this way, concern for the others is the way of heaven. So you see, this first two stanza is talking about the faults of holding the self as a priority. And the next two lines is talking about the benefit of the holding the other as a priority, right? So all this stanzas goes like this now. It's very easy to understand, not so difficult. If to serve myself I harm others, I will suffer later in the realms of hell. But if for others' sake I harm myself, then every excellence will be my heritage. So that's how now Shantideva brainwashing us to think the other as a priority. Brainwashing. The brainwashing is good word, I think. Yeah, this our brain is dirty, needs to be washed by this water. These are the water. These are the kind of like a, what do you call, a clean water. We should wash our this dirty brain. And likewise, wanting what is best for me, stupidity, inferiority, right? Inferiority and lower realms result. Let this be changed, applied to others, honored, and the realms of bliss will come. Enslaving, right? Enslaving others, forcing them to serve me, I will come to know the state of servitude. But if I labor for the good of others, mastery and leadership will come to me. And all the joy and world contains has come through wishing happiness for others. All the misery the world contains has come through wanting pleasure for oneself. Is there need for lengthy explanation childish being, look out for themselves. Buddhas labor for the good of others. See the difference that divides them. So now this is a little bit like Shantideva, a little bit feel tired. So now I don't have to talk so much. You can just watch what happens to the Buddha. How he holding other as a priority and what he achieved. And how we holding as ourselves as a priority and what we achieve. Just look at that history. You can see very clearly what fruition can achieve by holding self as a priority versus other as a priority. If I do not interchange my happiness for others' pain, enlightenment will never be attained, and even in samsara, joy will fly from me. Enlightened, yes, forget it, far. If we are unable to put other as a priority, then enlightenment is impossible for that individual person. Not just enlightened, but even in samsara, joy will fly from me. Yes, the persons who are very selfish, at the end, they're stuck. There are so many history happens, but it's still out of our habit, we want to do this. That's really unfortunate. Regardlessing, neglecting all this history evidence, still thinking that they did something, they don't know exactly how they should do it, therefore they stuck. I know how to do it, maybe I will not going to stuck even though I am being so selfish. We still want to find it out, scapegoat from there by looking into this, neglecting this 1,000 evidence of history and then thinking that maybe I can success by being a selfish. Even though these 1,000 peoples are unsuccess, but I think they did something wrong, which I will not going to do. So I can success even being selfish. We find excuse even like that. Because doesn't want to accept this fact, the 1,000 evidence. We want to neglect. We want to forbid, right? That is something very strong habit of self-cherishing. And then here's Shantideva saying, living future life outside the reckoning. Even this life needs are not fulfilled. The servant do not do their work, they cannot fulfill their wish. And the master do not pay the wage earned, they will also fail to fulfill their wish. You see, these are the servant do not do their work because of selfish. And master do not pay the wage of earn because of their selfish. These are fully selfish actually. If wise selfish, servants should do their work and masters should pay their wage. That's the smart way of fulfilling one's wishes. Instead, people who are trying to do opposite is the foolish way of fulfilling self wishes. And casting far away abandoned joys that may be gained in this or future lives, Because of bringing harm to others beings, I ignorantly bring myself intolerable pain. So this is something easy to understand, right? So main message through this, what Shantideva want us to have the conviction within ourselves is the putting other as a priority. It's something we should train. It's something we should make it habit. It's something we should make familiar with it. And then putting self as a priority, that we should train to discard this. We should train to avoid this. We should train to lay it low at the beginning. And then eventually we can eliminate or eradicate completely. That is the main message from this, within this 9 stanza, that what Shantideva really want us to understand, really what he want us to have a conviction upon. So putting self as a core or the priority versus putting other as a priority. So anyway, so here Shantideva was trying the zigzag and round and kind of like the hinder way, right? Hinder way or zigzag whatsoever. Mainly he's trying to discard the self putting as a priority and train to have the others, putting other as a priority. That's the main purpose, main goal. Okay, so maybe we should stop here today. Okay, Irene, what was your question?
Yes. I have a question on stealing from what has been offered to the Triple Gem. I have heard, I don't know if it's true, but I have heard that like some teachers, some Buddhist teachers in high position have used like people's offering for their own purposes. And I feel very troubled and confused when I learn about it. Because if it's true, then their teaching is contrary to their own behavior. So I want to know, like, how could this happen, and how should we as practitioners deal with this issue?
That's now, okay. The teacher or the Buddhist practitioner, whoever doing this, and yes, they should reflect upon these histories, what I mentioned above histories, and then to avoid. And that's mainly, they should implement it. They should do it something. You cannot really do anything to that. What you can do is, since understand this is what he's doing it, if you really know that he is exactly using and possessing the sanghas kind of like belongings to his own, then what you can do is stop offering. That you can do, right? And then they mainly to avoid that, to not to do, not to possess or the own the sanghas belonging, that the teacher or the Buddhist practitioner, whosoever doing it, they should reflect upon all this history and then to avoid.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
When somebody gives an offering, like they should be clear about the purpose of the intention. Like in the Jakarta story there that you quoted, the 500 merchants were clear that
You can come closer so they can hear. So the 500 version, yeah, you can see that from here.
The 500 merchants, they were clear when they made the offering of the intention and the purpose that it was, and the dedication of what the offering was for. It was to be kept for when the Sangha ran out of food, so the Sangha wouldn't have to disperse, they could stay together. So when we as practitioners make an offering to the Sangha, we should be clear if we have in our mind what we want it to be used for.
Yeah.
Yes, and then there cannot be any mistake. So if somebody, say, gives me an offering, I may feel free, unless they dedicate it, that I must use it to buy or use in a certain way, or to give as an offering to a higher lama, a high lama or someone else. But if they give it to me and don't say clearly what the intent is, then I may use it for my personal needs that I don't take from the Sangha.
No, it's if they offer to you, that means this is to you. That's no need to worry. Okay, for instance, if somebody offering to me, then this belongs to me. Then I can own this. But when somebody offered to the center, for instance, like this, when somebody is saying, oh, this is for chok offering, so this is for the center's maintaining, so this is for the offer for the Sangha members, then these we should use for the Sangha members. You should use for the center maintenance. We should use for the chok offering, buying chok. Cannot own by myself. Therefore, I always making this clear to whoever comes to offer to me. I'm asking, are you offering this to the center or to me? And that's why I am making this clear. If this is goes to the center, so this is not mine. I don't bother this to think as a mine. That's why I make it this very clear from the beginning. So just like that, you don't have to worry about that. People comes to you, offer to you, that belongs to you. They offer to you, not to the center. If they want to offer to the center, they should come to me.
Yes, they should.
Not to you.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't worry that. Ani is worrying here.
I think it's a very difficult line to draw sometimes as well.
No, it's not difficult. It is just, okay. For instance, the Irina, you are our members, right? You donating to the centers. So now that's centers. That's not, you're not offering this to me. Yeah, so that's not mine. I will not going to own that ever. I will only allow to use that for the center's purpose, like maintaining, continuing all this program, or the hosting some new program, invite the teachers to teach. And then the maintenance of the centers. So for that purpose, I will use that. So that's not so much difficult to line the boundary. It's easy to line the boundary.
I think in the West, because Western students were not used to giving alms, and sometimes we're unclear. So we might give to the centre and be unclear, but in our mind we're giving to the centre, and then we might see an Annie out in the town buying shoes for herself and thinking, oh, she used my offerings to buy something for herself, when it was really, she should be using the money for the centre.
And then that whoever offering, you can ask them, okay, when you get offered, you're offering this to me or to the center? If you are offering this to the center, then you offer to the center. Yeah, you can make it that boundary line clear. That's not difficult. I'm making it myself.
Melugi. Like this.
Like this, correct?
Yeah, Melugi.
Oh, here now. Okay. So right away, example coming here that Melu offering this to individual, not to the center. Anyway, so okay, so now we'll just dedicate our merit and then take a rest. Sonam de tamje zibani tomne nye bendanam pamje ne shegananje walan tubai sibin zolendo ando warsho jambal pawe jidra kembanda kundu sambo te yande jende te da kunji jesu daloji gewan de da tamje rabdongo gewan de ishe okun Sonam yeshe tsozo ne, sonam yeshe lechonwe, tamba kunyen tobar sho, sanje kusum nyebe chenlam dang, chunyi minjur dembe chenlam dang, gendun mechen dembe chenlam ki, jidara ngowa melam dobar sho. Read in English. By this beneficial activity, may I obtain omniscience, and having vanquished the harmful enemies, greed, anger, delusion, may I liberate all being tossed about helplessly by the wave of birth, aging, illness, and death in the ocean of becoming. By conforming to the knowledge of courageous Manjushri, Jambal Yang, and in the same way as Samindabhadra, Kundusangbo, and following their example, I dedicate perfectly all this virtue. By this virtue, may all being perfectly achieve the accumulation of merit, sunam, and wisdom, yeshe, and may they thereafter obtain the two holy bodies which result from these two accumulation. By the blessing of the Buddha, Sanjay, who obtained the three bodies, by the blessing of the immutable truth of the Dharmata, Chönyi, by the blessing of the infallible aspiration of the Sangha, Gendin, may this prayer of dedication be accomplished just as it is. Thank you.